Warning, proceed with caution as there are tons of spoilers for Star Trek Picard. As we are now in the age of Picard, I must say that there will probably be discussion. This recording was done before the show actually aired, but there was a lot of speculative conversation during this discussion. Otherwise, please enjoy and please attend carefully.
Recording the audio. I have my paper.
Audio. Starfleet is avoid legal snags by telling people they're being. Hey, you're being recorded.
Oh my goodness! I did not authorize this.
Oh really? Oh bye. Bye Felicia. Bye Felipe. That's
Felipe.
Felipe, yeah, you're a guy. You're a dude. You identify as a dude, so just be Felipe. 1, 2, 3, clap. You know, we could also just tap the mic. 1, 2, 3,
tap the mic?
tap. Oh, but I can't see you tapping.
I can do the tap. You can't see me tapping?
No.
Oh, you don't see the mic. I can.
Wait. Oh, here we go. Okay. 1, 2, 3, clap or tap. 1, 2. No, that's like a light tap. You gotta like make a noise.
I'll give it a clap.
All right, we'll just do the claps. All right. 1, 2, 3, clap. 1, 2, 3, clap. 1, 2, 3, clap. All right, there's the technical portion of Starfleet Boy is over, and I've changed my voice as I tend to do once I like. I don't know why that happens.
You kind of dive into the radio host voice.
By the way, I meant to tell you, like, the previous episode was really great for the ASMR portion of our audience.
No, really.
I was listening to it, and I was like, "Oh, it's gonna really give some folks a thrill." We're back on another excited
another excited episode.
We are excited, and we're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today, we're focused on Star Trek: The Next Generation, and we're on season 7, episode 12?
13
13, 12. I think Sub Rose is 13, no?
Oh my goodness, maybe you're right. I think it is 12. I don't know. No, it's 13, I think.
Oh, balls.
TNG. Wait a minute. Let me look this up. We're very
While you look it up, it's called Homeward.
13.
13.
The big 1-3.
You know, I think Sub Rosa, that's a mistake. Sub Rosa should have been episode 13.
Why?
Like, you know, the whole unlucky number to continue the
spookiness of it.
The spookiness of it.
Sub Rosa maybe shouldn't have existed.
What's that?
I say Sub Rosa maybe shouldn't have existed, but actually it's a very big meme episode in the Star Trek community. A lot of people talk about Sub Rosa all the time, so
it's definitely an episode that a lot of people talk about. It's true.
Is it better to have absolute garbage episodes that people constantly talk about all the time, like Threshold from Voyager, or is it even worse to have just those episodes that are so meaningless and bring you so much nothing that no one ever really mentions them or just forgets about them, and you skip them in your rewatches just because they have nothing? So is it worse to have them worse or worse to have them banal?
I mean, I think banal would win, right? Because you're at least going to watch it. Or no, what is it? No, you wouldn't watch the banal ones, right? I think whichever one you would watch again is the better one to have.
Oh, okay.
And I feel like Sub Rosa for the memes. You just do it for the memes, right? Shall we do it? So shall we do this for the memes, Sean? Shall we go ahead and do it for the memes? No, just kidding. There are no memes that I recall from this episode. Do you want to do the episode summary?
I can do the episode summary.
I would love it if you would.
All right, so
You do them so well.
Star
Like
Trek
after all
Insurrection.
this time, you're just like the one.
That's it.
All right, go.
That's
I'm
the
Dodge
summary.
right now. Right, this
Wait,
is my
I'll-
impression of
I'll
Dodge.
I'll go read the plot of Star Trek Insurrection.
Oh, we have to do our little disclaimer that we're going to talk about Picard, and I think we should just talk about Picard now in the beginning, and then get to Sub Rosa. So, like, can we just get some things out of the way?
We're not talking
that
about
I just-
Sub Rosa. We're talking about Homeward.
I mean, it's like, wow, this is not a great. Today's my day off. Today's actually a holiday in the United States, but
It is.
yeah, but it's Martin Luther King Day, Jr. Day, so yeah. So
I
we
didn't
take
know that was a
time off.
day. Okay.
It is a day, yeah. Very important day. I just want to say that this shot that was in the trailer, this one here, was it this way or that way? It was this way.
I think it was that way.
And how come? And then there's that other shot that shows it from like down here, and there's like a nebula. What do you think that's all about? Flashback.
I don't know.
obviously.
The only thing I've really noticed is that the design doesn't look changed. Like they didn't change the design.
What? Like they didn't change the nacelles.
Yeah, they didn't change the nacelles, or they didn't change how the ship looks.
It
It's so
looks-
easy. It's so easy to make the ship the same, isn't it? And then everyone's happy. No one complains about it.
It's true. I 100% agree. I would not have understood any
People are
reason behind
hypocrites
changing the
because
Enterprise D.
People are hypocrites because they all say, "Oh, it's fine to change the ships and what have you when you do like the original series." But if you had changed the Enterprise D, these same people would have been pissed the fuck off. Right? It's like if you had taken Yoda
Why?
in the prequels and made him blue.
Well,
made
they
him
did
red,
like
people would have.
they
been
made Yoda
mad.
weird, and they made Yoda weird in the first prequel in Phantom Menace. He was bizarre looking.
Not really. He was. Just
He was a little
CG.
too.
He
He
was
was
a
like
CG
no,
model.
he wasn't CG in the first one.
Oh, he
He
wasn't.
was still a puppet in Phantom. Yeah, in Phantom Menace, he
Okay.
was a puppet, and then he becomes. But he was a weird puppet. Like they made him too. He was like
thin.
super thin. Yeah, he was like emaciated in some ways, and people didn't
But
like
I mean,
that.
okay, everyone gets fatter when they age, right?
But going back to ships, like, you know, I think that the thing is, it just depends how much sentimentality you have around that particular ship. Because for me, like, my favorite ship is the refit Enterprise / 1701 A. That's like my favorite design of all time. And so that was one of the things, despite the fact that they got the whatchamacallit wrong, the lettering here. It should have been, you know. Despite that, like, it was just really neat. They did a pretty good job at keeping it looking the way it should. Do you have one?
I have.
Is that what you're getting? You have the same one as me.
Yes.
We're twinning. Oh my gosh. Hashtag twinning.
What? I have my refit. My NCC 1701, not the bloody A.
But I just think that, like, another thing that, you know, the thing about the Enterprise in Discovery is that I just don't know why it's so different from like what we saw in the cage. But I'm willing to. There's a cool guy, I think his name is E.C. Henry. He does like some like explanation videos. And he talks about stuff like how he just reminds you that, like, and this has always been a thing. I used to study the technical manuals and stuff, and he just reminds you that components on these starships are 100% swappable. Like, you could just, it's not hard for.
Well, he made
for
a
them
whole
to-
video about the nacelles
Yeah.
and how they were a certain way. But, I mean, he puts a million more thoughts into this than anyone designing
That's
those
true.
ships.
This is the model's wrong. This should be over here. The NCC 1701A should be here. So Eagle Moss, I just want you to change the model and make sure you move this over here.
There should also be like a green tardigrade somewhere.
Yeah. but just letting you know that the model's wrong. It's not.
Did you want to talk about Picard then, or do I jump into the episode summary of this episode?
I just want to say there's not much to say except that like the hype is beyond anything I can control right now. Like
I'm very
myself,
hyped for the
like,
show. I feel like there's been
like,
too many sneak peeks, too many trailers, too many teasers at this point.
I think that means there's still so much more. I mean, like they showed the first 3 episodes to a bunch of lucky people, so I feel like that's like where a lot of stuff is. There's going to be a lot of stuff
YouTube channel
happening
about Star Trek, and I've stopped watching. I know there's a whole scene where Picard and Data speak, from what I gather.
Oh, you didn't see that one?
I haven't seen it.
I
I don't want to watch it. There comes a point where I want to discover the show. I mean, for a movie that isn't Star Trek or that I'm interested in, I don't watch the trailer. I haven't seen any footage for A Quiet Place 2. I just want to go and watch it, right?
Right.
That kind of stuff. So, Star Trek, I make an exception because I talk about everything on the videos. But
I think the latest thing I saw was that the premiere is going to happen at midnight Pacific time on Thursday. So Thursday morning.
Okay, so every Thursday at midnight, basically.
Right. So that means I'll be able to do what I love to do, which is wake up a little extra early because it's a work day, so I can't, and then I'll watch it before I do anything and then go to work. Yeah.
I'll be watching it when I come home from work because I'll be at work at midnight, right?
Well, it'll be 3 in the morning. It comes out at 3 in the morning for us on the East Coast.
Oh, okay. Okay,
because it's midnight.
I'll be at work midnight to what, 10 a.m. So it'll come out at 3, and then so by the time I get home, I'll probably be able to watch it once before my nap, and then I'll get back
and then
up
dream
and
about
watch it
Picard.
Again.
And then you'll dream about Picard. How lovely is that? Like during your nap, you're gonna dream about Picard.
Take a good nap, dear boy.
Just remember,
sweet.
The past
sweet
always catches up with you. It's never something you can escape.
The past always catches up with you. This is not what I want to hear when I'm sleeping.
I don't know. Isn't that what he says in the trailer? In the one we've already seen? You can't escape the past. You can't escape Data.
Our Picard sounds like a villain.
Oh my gosh.
No. Oh. Now that he's an admiral in Starfleet, it would be interesting if he's become one of the bad admirals. Like he's.
Oh my god.
Like, because everyone becomes a terrible person once they become an admiral in Starfleet, right? Or Janeway didn't.
I think that's why he left, is because he didn't want to be a bad admiral. And I think Janeway's... Yeah, Janeway's not a bad admiral. Admiral Nagurum is not a bad admiral. Admiral Nechayev is not a bad admiral. Is she?
No, she's just a little...
She's good. And she's just, very intense.
Well, strict, right? Yeah,
strict. She's very strict. It's true.
Intense, yeah.
All right, you're free to give the summary. I'm done with my...
All right.
Oogling about Picard, as usual.
Worf has a brother.
Worf has a brother.
But this is not his Klingon blood brother, let's say.
He has another brother.
This is the child of...
this is his brother from another mother.
Parents. This is the brother from another mother. Worf was adopted by the Rozhenkos, which are a Russian couple.
Who we've met already several times.
Yeah, and so they had a son before Worf came along. And so this is his stepbrother, is it? Or half brother? Stepbrother, maybe.
He would be a stepbrother. Well,
stepbrother.
No, because he can't.
Who cares?
It's not through. It's his adopted brother. Sorry, that's the correct term for it. He's his adopted
it's his
brother.
Other brother.
Adopted brother. Other brother, yes. He's the
anyway,
Burnham. He's the Burnham. Worf is the Burnham in the Rozhenko family.
Kind of. Oh yeah,
no,
kind of.
Yeah, he's 100% that.
So
like,
instead of
was
being on the like a human on
orphaned.
Vulcan, he's the Klingon and the this is very true.
Orphaned as a child.
Is he a ward?
Yeah,
He's not the Worf.
he was
He's
orphaned.
officially adopted.
Yeah,
Whereas,
he's orphaned. He's orphaned as a child from a Romulan attack, Klingon attack, Romulan attack, and then he ends up being with this human family instead of a Vulcan family, although they're not prestigious like Sarek's family. Prestigious in Star Trek, previously known or whatever. It'd be interesting if Worf was adopted by, wouldn't it have been cool if Worf was adopted by Dr. McCoy's family, or that would have been an interesting twist on things. But essentially, it's the same background.
They have no random brother a long lost brother that's a crazy fanatic that tries to find God in their family, though.
But they have a random. They don't have a random brother, but his actual adopted brother is a crazy fanatic for these people.
Anyway, so we learned that this episode that Worf has a brother, and this brother is currently on a planet of an indigenous pre-warp species
called the Barallans.
The Barallans, and their planet is going to die, and they're all going to die, and so the rules as they are is that the Federation and Starfleet is to observe the Prime Directive and essentially let these people die. The whole non-intervention thing sometimes is good, and sometimes it kind of takes its toll because you have to respect it, and these people are going to die. But this brother of Worf's refuses. He doesn't want to do that. He's been living with these people kind of undercover, disguised as one of them for a while now, and he's become attached to them. So he
very attached. I mean,
spoilers.
Oh,
no,
sorry.
That's for later on. That's for later on. He becomes he becomes very attached to these people, and so he directly disobeys the orders of Captain Jean-Luc Picard, kind of the rules and regulations of Starfleet and the Federation.
Right.
And
he actually bends the rule, in my opinion, because
he bends it. Oh, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he decides, he hatches a plan to save these people. And what he does is he basically beams them onto the Enterprise, into the holodeck without them knowing. And sets in motion this plan where the idea is to transport them to another planet without them knowing about it. And so...
Right, just like what becomes Star Trek Insurrection later on, basically.
What becomes Star Trek Insurrection. So this whole episode brings up kind of a long lost feud between Worf and this brother of his, which I forget his name.
Nikolai, right? Nikolai Rozhenko.
Yeah, that's it, Nikolai Rozhenko. Anyway, so it brings up some old wounds, opens up some old wounds between Worf and Nikolai. We also have a kind of little side story where one of these people from the village, the one that basically the keeper of the story of the village, he's writing down all the scrolls and keeping a record of the history of this village. He finds himself on the Enterprise because he walks through the holodeck doors.
By the way, that actor's name is Brian Markinson, and he's been in a ton of stuff, including a show I like called Continuum. But he's been in a lot. He's also been on an episode of Deep Space Nine, and a couple of maybe episodes of Voyager. I think one or two.
He's
one
a great
episode
actor.
of. Yeah, he's a really good actor.
He's a fantastic actor. He was in what's that movie called? He was in a few movies that I really enjoyed. Anyway.
By the way, he's Dr. Nikolai Rozhenko. I don't remember what he was a doctor of, but he's definitely Dr. Nikolai Rozhenko.
Well, he studies like pre-warp species, that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, I guess he's an anthropologist or something like that.
That's it.
Everyone's an anthropologist. Sorry, go on.
And so by the time we get to the end of the episode, we pretty much learn that Nikolai is very invested in these people because his girlfriend on the planet is pregnant.
Penny Johnson.
Yep. Penny Johnson.
Who's like a huge She's huge now because she's in the Orville, but she was on Deep Space Nine. She played Cassidy Yates.
She was huge in Deep Space Nine as well.
She's
also in plenty of other things, actually.
Oh yeah, she's like a very prolific actor.
Anyway, so yeah, we will learn that he's very invested in these people because he's actually got an unborn child on that, in those people, and so that's why he wanted to, desperately save them all. I wonder if he would have been as invested if he wasn't in love with this woman and if he didn't have a baby on the way. I wonder if he would have been, maybe this pushed him to do what he did.
I think that's safe to say that definitely
this was the factor that made him do what he did. Anyway,
he may have been more rational about it. They all save these people through this genius plan.
This genius plan, this well thought out plan of this man.
I don't think it was well thought out. It was like on the fly, but it was still a genius plan.
He improvises his well thought out plans, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Everyone kind of accepts
and even
it and
says
has to roll with it.
Yeah,
they have no choice.
Well, because there's no choice. They have no choice. It's a really weird situation. Picard's really great at showing his frustration.
They managed to save the village. Well, not the village, but they managed to save the people, except for one. And Nikolai decides to,
which is the chronicler. He can't handle it. He can't deal with. He's like,
it's not that he can handle the truth quite fine. It's just he doesn't know how
to go back and be.
He doesn't want to lie to his people, but then he doesn't want to be regarded as the crazy one. He will be stripped of his chronicling rights for sure.
Right.
For saying crazy things. Yeah, no, it would be anyway. Anyway, Nikolai finds a direction in life because, from what we understand, he's kind of always been. He's not really known what he wanted to do. Kind of like a marginal kind of person. And at this point now, he's kind of found he's got a wife, or at least a girlfriend, and he's got a baby on the way. And he seems to be very happy and content in this village, and so with these people. And so he's going to help these people, and he's going to raise his child and be with his family. And the episode ends there. It's a pretty heavy episode, actually.
It is a pretty heavy episode. Very good summary, by the way. Well done. Did you know who Paul Sorvino was and how big a deal it was to have him on this episode?
No. Is this the old man, or is this Nikolai?
Nikolai.
Okay, no, I don't know. Is this a big guy?
He's just a well-known performer by this time, and I think he's. I'd have to look on IMDb, but I can think of like a million things that he's been in. He's very prolific as well.
Okay.
But also he's Mira Sorvino's
he was in
father.
Goodfellas.
Yeah, that's right. He's Mira Sorvino's father, who you might know. Do you know her?
Mira Sorvino, no.
She's also a pretty great actress. She made it around the 90s. She started becoming 90s and 2000s. I think she started coming up. But the Sorvino connection.
Well, sometimes you see people all the time, but you don't really know who they are. But,
right.
Sorvino, he looks like a gangster.
And I think this was.
He's been in so many movies. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's like everywhere. Paul Sorvino is like a big deal. I think even by this point he was like considered a huge.
He's in Godfather of Harlem, which is a show that I'm going to start watching very soon.
Oh, I don't know about that show.
Apparently, it's very, very good. There's Vincent D'Onofrio in it. There's Forrest Whitaker playing the main role.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm going back to IMDb here real quick to take a look at Paul Sorvino.
Anyway, this is just us doing research and people listening to us.
Well,
talk about what
a lot of people know who Paul Sorvino is.
Okay. I'm the idiot.
It's a shame. You're just young. It's okay. It's okay. Don't let your age be a handicap. Or Paul Sorvino needs to do a better job at appealing to your demographic. No, he doesn't have to do anything he doesn't want to.
I think he's fine. I mean, judging by his filmography, I think he's doing quite fine.
He's
I
doing
don't
quite
think
fine.
he needs any advice from any of us.
No, he definitely doesn't. No,
And he's a good actor. I mean,
He
it's not like he was crap. Actually,
Right.
all around there were good performances in this episode.
I'm gonna step away for a second. I just realized.
No. Well, then leave. Be gone.
Oh, it's gonna rain. There's a thunderstorm brewing. All right, now there's more light. Starfleet Boy is all about the light. Can I have the light?
There are 4 lights.
The last 2 seasons of Star Trek, and some can argue throughout the series, we really get into the families of these characters way more than I think we ever did in TOS. I mean, like, we definitely, I don't even think we meet like Uhura's family, and throughout the whole run and the films, like, we don't meet Uhura's family. Is definitely not Chekhov. Sulu, we get an idea that he has a daughter because of Star Trek Generations.
This whole
Spock,
idea,
certainly doesn't have anyone, and
I mean, I think Spock's the one that we see the most about. Actually, we see his parents, and I think
that's true.
Pretty much,
that's true from the original
without
series.
talking about his brother, but yeah, we see his parents, which is the most.
We do see Kirk's brother, George Kirk, I think, in the original series, if I'm not mistaken.
We see him when we hear about him.
I think we see him.
Well, we know about him at least. But no,
oh, yeah, we at least.
I'm
yeah,
thinking,
that's true.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. But this whole idea that Star Trek is very much about its characters, I think, came with TNG, because although there's that dynamic between the 3 main characters in the original series that kind of translates into the animated series, it's not so much about those characters as it is about the stories and the sci-fi concepts. It becomes more about those characters once you start hitting the movies for the original series, I find.
Oh yeah, I think the
films
film's definitely
really
like
follows that.
Yeah, I think so. Well, the other thing is like a 7-year run. That's like 4 seasons more than the original series got.
You've
to
got
tell
time
us.
to do this.
You've had plenty of time to do this, but I love it. I think I always loved it back then too. And some of our friends, our mutual friends, used to complain that there was too much about the characters. And I always thought that was weird because I love the characters so much. I wanted to know everything about them.
That's the thing.
Yeah, it's true.
Some
of course,
these Alexander
that makes
Rozhenko
sense.
episodes aren't very good.
You mean like Worf's son?
Yeah, some of those episodes aren't very good.
Why do you think that? Do you think it's because they're tailored towards a younger audience, or do you think it's just he's not an interesting character for you?
I don't know, actually. I don't know. It's
like,
the same way. It's the same way I think Wesley and Beverly's relationship never really works on screen.
Right.
I
do. I disagree. By the way, you know that.
I don't know if it's just. I don't know if it's just. Sometimes there's a creative decision for like the first episode, and you think, oh well, we'll try to bring this character back and do a different story, but then it doesn't really work out. And I think ultimately in TNG, without talking about Deep Space Nine, in TNG, the best episode that there is with Alexander Rozhenko is the time traveling one, where Alexander there's Alexander from the future comes and he tries to change like the course and the life and the direction of the life of young Alexander.
Oh crap! Did we haven't even gotten to that episode yet?
Have we gotten to that? Actually, the other one that I do like is A Fistful of Data.
I told you,
isn't really
it's
about.
a really good one.
It's not really about Alexander Rozhenko. It's not really about Worf. It's just like the kind of fun adventure of being in the holodeck. And it was a good way to actually kind of use. Anyway, I'm getting off topic.
Well, no, I like the off topic that you were going on. The Rozhenko family is really cool. I do think that now I got to look up Alexander Rozhenko.
So the Rozhenko parents here, the parents of this Nikolai and of this Worf, then go on to kind of raise Alexander for a while as well.
Right, but they send him back.
They send him back eventually, but because I mean,
Worf, we are too old for this.
Fair
we
enough,
cannot.
these people, I have much respect for them because they raised, from what I understand, 3 difficult people to raise.
Yeah.
3 difficult children, each in their own respect.
So do you have respect for them, or are they bad parents? Are they good parents, or are they bad parents?
I think they're good. You know what? I think they're good parents because I think that it's the personalities of these 3 children that are very, very peculiar. Right? These like Worf is he's a strange bird, right? And so is Alexander. Alexander's a very confused child. And
it's true.
And this Nikolai seems all over the place, wild and disobedient, as Worf puts it.
The episode you're talking about, by the way, I think is New Ground. Let's take a look here. No. What episode is that where Alexander... Are you sure that you're not confusing that for Jake Sisko in...
No, we've done it. I'm pretty sure we've done it.
I have... It's crazy that I can't remember. Was it Ethics? Which Alexander? Oh, it was the other Alexander. Which is young Alexander's played by the other actor. Is that why? No.
I don't know.
Firstborn. That's the one.
Is it?
Yes. Okay. In an effort to help him accept his Klingon heritage, Worf and his son Alexander attend an ancient Klingon ceremony. And then let's see if there's an older Alexander in here. No, maybe not. I don't know which episode you're talking about.
Oh, God damn it. I'll try and find it.
You'll have to find it.
Yeah, no. I like that episode.
Starfleet Boy does frequently draw blanks. We may have even talked about that episode and I totally forgot it.
The humor in this episode is actually pretty good. Because even though it is a pretty heavy episode, it's drama-full. There are some pretty funny jokes. I mean, I like the whole "this is the sign of LaForge" joke.
Oh yeah, that was really great. I liked how angry Worf was at his brother. Like there was a lot of humor surrounding that too. Just like all these moments of like Worf kind of flipping out and being so serious.
You make fun of people for getting mad. You find it funny when Worf is angry.
I do. I like really enjoyed it. But I also just thought of my own sister and I, because I think that in our youth, I was definitely more like Nikolai Rozhenko, and Worf, my sister was more of like a Worf type personality. I think it's kind of different now. But but like I was definitely more of a, let's see what happens if, and like trying new things and, kind of like restless, if you will. And so I think that like my sister was more regimented and like, serious about things. So that I like that whole dynamic.
Firstborn is the episode.
So that is the one that, it has to be because it's the only one coming up. Yeah, so we haven't done that one. So we'll make sure to book you for that episode so we can have a follow up.
I'm technically already booked for Sub Rosa as well.
It's true.
And Lower Decks.
That's gonna be your bomb, right? Like Lower Decks is gonna be the one that you're just like. Are you so excited that there's a series called Lower Decks animated series coming up? You're just like.
I think it goes to show how much, like how in touch Mike McMahon is with the fandom, and like how much. I don't know how can I put this. When we have discussions about what kind of shows or what kind of movies we would make, or if we were part of Star Trek, we never really seem to exactly come up with the same kind of concepts or ideas that the people making Star Trek do. But I can't say that for Mike McMahon, because if I were to do an animated show, I would do what he's doing. And I think calling it Lower Decks is just perfect. I love the idea. I love the concept of the show being about the Lower Decks.
Well, also just that deliberately a comedy is very interesting. It's something that I've always wanted for Star Trek, and I think the animated format is like the best way to handle that. And it's just gonna be really. I think it'll also lighten up the mood, if you will. Like I think a lot of people take Star Trek really seriously, so to have the first, would you call it in canon? It would have to be, right? I mean, it's going to be a show dealing with like events taking place in the Star Trek universe, and even though it'll have a comedic twist on it, I can't imagine it's going to be like so absurd that
its validity in canon will be constantly disputed by people that still don't think that, you know, the animated series is canon.
Oh, I understand. Is that because Gene Roddenberry like removed it from?
There was a time where he didn't want it to be canon anymore.
He excommunicated it.
Yeah, somehow. But I mean,
well, he would have been the Pope. Gene Roddenberry was the Pope of Star Trek. Alex Kurtzman is now the Pope of Star Trek. If you're going to talk about canon, we got to use all the full religious.
It's really true.
That would make us what we would be like
people
monks.
Think about the word canon. Like the word canon. I don't know why so many people are confused by it or like almost intimidated by the word. It just means what is officially part of the Star Trek story. That's it. And
right, which I like. That's why I like saying official better, actually, because it just confuses people. I think canon has this like weight to it that official.
But then official is not the same as officially licensed. See what I mean? Like because all of the Star Trek novels are officially licensed, but they're not canon. They're not officially part of the Star Trek story. That's the thing.
Like, but that's so you're saying that's why you use canon, because it like distinguishes things that are licensed.
Canon. It's not because other people don't understand the word that I have to stop myself from using it. On the contrary, we have to teach people what it means. Anyway, the thing is, you know, canon just means if it's canon or not, is it officially part of the Star Trek story?
But there's
the animated series is.
There's dispute even among that. There's some people that think that anything put out from the studio at this point, CBS, no matter what it is official, because CBS doesn't make statements about what's official and what's not official, which is smart.
They should be.
No, I don't think so. I think it's super smart. I think it's super smart to let people have arguments about it rather than like, you know, because there's people that are attached to certain aspects, and you know, for them to.
But you're a fan of Star Wars, and there's like an official statement for Star Wars.
Yeah, totally. But I don't know. I think that like with Star Wars, I think the biggest difference is that like the reason why probably CBS and Paramount don't go into this canon conversation too often is because ultimately
they don't know.
When it comes to Star Wars, I think adhering to canon is great, but I think and I think Lower Decks will be an interesting thing because of what you just said a little earlier, is that like it ultimately limits storytellers from telling the story that they want to, if they have to like always constantly think of continuity and canon and how does this fit into Star Trek, you know, and so on and so forth. And I think that's the thing that like by not saying if it's canon or if it's not official, it lets the audience decide what they accept and what they don't. And I think that's kind of generous in a sense. That's you know,
that's the thing. I don't like it when people say the words fits to canon or fits into canon or adheres to canon, because that doesn't make sense.
And it makes sense with prequels. Anything. It does. No, it does in a sense.
It doesn't. Canon is just if you put out
continuity. I use both words, by the way. Exactly. I said canon and continuity.
Does it have continuity, or is it coherent? Fine. Right. Anyway, whatever. It doesn't
matter.
Yeah,
you're right. It's official. It doesn't matter. It's official.
If you want to make a show that takes place in the Next Generation era, all right? If that's your objective and you want to make that show, then part of the exercise is making it fit into that era. You can still do
continuity-wise.
any number of sci-fi concepts that haven't been explored in Star Trek ever before, because not everything has been shown on Next Generation. We only follow one ship. There's thousands of them.
Mm-hmm.
But technology-wise, for example, you have to use the limitations of what they have. You're not going to use grappling hooks like they have Enterprise, because we have tractor beams in Next Generation, but you're not going to use holographic displays because we don't have holographic displays. See what I mean? It's kind of like you got to use the bounds and the limits of the era in which you're setting your show, but that doesn't limit you. But I mean, there are always limitations in any sense when you're making a show. If you're making Star Trek, then you're limited to the rules of Star Trek because you're not making Game of Thrones.
Right.
Right? You can't have siblings have sex on screen.
I mean, not on screen.
Well, Game of Thrones does it.
Yeah, I know, but like Star Trek
can't do that
trying
on
to
Star
appeal
Trek.
to a wider.
No, exactly. That's the rule. There are rules. So you can't just say, "Oh, there's creative liberties. Do whatever the hell."
But you can
want.
show, but Star Trek breaks the rules all the time. Like we got to see the Klingon anatomy in Star Trek Discovery. Both we saw direct evidence of female anatomy, and we saw a shadow or a peace stream of the male anatomy. So. The thing is does Worf have two penises? That's what really it boils down to.
Okay, so from what I understand, yes, which means Dax had an interesting time.
And
So
and Troy.
does Deanna.
Deanna.
And this woman in this episode that the father is trying to put with Worf, like he says, you would make a good companion for my daughter. She would have been quite surprised.
Oh my, Seer. What is this?
I wasn't ready for this.
What did you think of Picard's hard ass stance on the matter? Did you agree with him? Because this was an episode where I kind of found him to be like an antagonist in a real sense, and I didn't understand. Like I felt like you've made exceptions for the Prime Directive so many times that
Why does this time?
Why is this one so important? And literally, these are like the last. This is like the last village. Like every other village is basically decimated or whatever, right? Is kind of like the idea here, and like this is the last.
I've written it down in my
vestige
notes.
of-
I've written it's peculiar to let them die. I feel like you're right. There are often times, specifically Captain Picard, where he tries to think of a solution that kind of bends the Prime Directive rules, right?
Right.
And the way they execute this plan, if it weren't for the holodeck kind of malfunctions, and that was due to the planet, if they had like a functioning holodeck, nothing bad would it would have all been quite fine. No one would have seen anything.
I think. Well, how would he have? He would have had to come out of the closet about what he did. It's So the whole thing plays out really interestingly. Like they have that conference room discussion, and who's in attendance there? It's Troy, Crusher, Paul Servino, Nikolai, Worf, Picard, and I don't remember if Riker. I don't remember if it was a full staff.
I don't
meeting
think
or
so.
not.
I think there was only like 5 or 6. Well, there wasn't everyone there. There was
Everyone wasn't there. But Troy is 100% like, that's actually not, like, whereas Crusher's like, oh, I think we should help these people. Like, this is
The
like one of
thing
those
is,
situations.
It's peculiar to look at, like, because you can look at it from two perspectives. You can look at it from a very personal perspective, as in the rapport that you have with these people that you're actually seeing. So you're physically watching them die, but then you look at it in a grand scheme of things. It's like, are we setting a precedent by saving this village? Are we all of a sudden setting a precedent that everyone in Starfleet can go around saving villages? And what Crusher says later on is very important. She talks about the lasting impact that it's going to have on the new system where they're going to put them in. What kind of people they're going to become. It's kind of like, can you start playing God, for lack of a better term, in this way. And if every captain, every ship in Starfleet starts doing this,
it'd be
then
chaotic.
all of a sudden it would be absolute madness.
I also
Especially
wonder.
You start moving. I don't know. It's
So
very peculiar.
this takes place. So this takes place in Federation space, but I wonder what happens with similar situations. Like, do the Romulans have a prime directive? Do the Klingons have a prime directive? Do the Ferengi have a prime directive? Like, do the Cardassians have one as well? They don't.
The first season of Voyager shows that.
Oh, really? Okay.
The first or second season of Voyager. From the first or second
is that
season
when
of Voyager,
we find the Ferengi that come over from the wormhole episode of TNG?
Two Ferengi that we've already seen in TNG, and they took the wormhole over to Delta Quadrant, and they're just exploiting these people, right?
Right. I actually remember that episode. Yeah.
They have no understanding, no understanding. They just don't have any prime directive, and they don't follow that.
And doesn't Neelix become a Ferengi? The Nagus doesn't Neelix pretend to be the Nagus or something like that? That was a good episode. Going back to this though, like, okay, I get what you're saying, but like Picard was just like, and then the whole "let's watch this planet die." Like, I thought that was like a weird choice too, because
is he honoring the planet by watching it die? Is that what went through his mind?
I think so, but like I actually felt like Nikolai in that scene. I was like, if you'll excuse me, I can't watch this.
Yeah, can we like not do this in orbit, maybe?
It's like, even though he'd already like concocted his plan and like
but you see, over on this planet, is there not some sort of law on this planet, depending on which country I imagine, but is there not this kind of law like where you need to assist people that are in danger or whatever? Like if someone gets run over by a car and then it's a hit and run, the car goes away, are you not in a sense obligated to at least call 911? I'm not saying you have to intervene, because you might not have the knowledge, but it's kind of, you find yourself morally obligated here, ethically obligated to call help, right?
I think so. I mean, I think that's like Troy Crusher's argument, sort of, right? Wasn't she like kind of like, well, in a sense, like, this kind of like is an exception to the prime directive because they're like severely, this is like more than just letting a civilization take its course. These are the last of their, this is the last of their kinds. Let's at least give them a happy ending. I don't know. I don't know. It's a real tough call. Like now that I'm talking in this discussion, like I see the logic behind what you said. Like if everyone just could make exceptions to the prime directive, I just had trouble with like Picard, like his like
it's dealing with the reality of it, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
In I guess theory, like the bureaucrats that wrote down the prime directive, you understand their logic and like where they're coming from, and you can sense that there were many Vulcans in that room.
There must have been a delay or something because I just got what you were like. You don't think the Andorians are as dispassionate about this kind of stuff? It had to be the Vulcans.
I don't know.
Don't we get the
Tellarites they would feel about?
Don't we get the seeds? You're almost complete. Don't we get the seeds of the prime directive in Enterprise? Like, isn't that where kind of like how it? Do we find out how it comes to be?
I have seen the last episode of Enterprise that I need to watch before Picard comes out. So,
what are there episodes you don't need to watch before that you have to still watch after?
Well, you need to watch none of the episodes of Enterprise to understand Picard, to be honest. You don't need to watch any of Enterprise.
Okay.
But we're watching them in release order. So we've watched them until season 2, episode 11, and yesterday we actually started watching Nemesis, and the objective, we never cut movies in half. We watch movies all the way through. But yesterday the two of us were just so tired eventually that we were both falling asleep, so we were like, okay, we're going to stop Nemesis.
What was the scene that was putting you to sleep the most?
I don't know if it was a scene specifically. It's just we were about halfway through the movie at this point, but I am appalled by Captain Picard's one of Captain Picard's statement in Nemesis, and I had never noticed this before. All right, I'm not one to have major beef with Nemesis as a movie. People say that he's strange. Captain Picard is strange because he's having fun on the planet. He's not as.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
I don't
that was
mind.
Great.
But hear me out. Hear my tangent on Star Trek Picard. All right. Do you remember that Shinzon's Viceroy kind of taps into Troy's mind and does the mental rape? You remember this, right?
Yes, he
Okay.
violates her. Yeah.
So Troy and Riker are going to get it on. They got the sexy time going on, but all of a sudden there's like a mental image where Riker is replaced by Shinzon, and so it's a rape. It's essentially a violation. That's how she puts it. Troy, when she explains this, she's in sickbay. She says it's a violation. Captain Picard says, and I quote, "If you can endure more of these attacks, we can use this to our advantage." You're asking your crew member to be raped again
Oh my God, it's so
and
true.
use it to your advantage. I absolutely disagree with that. I am shocked and appalled. And
I mean,
know
it's a
that- I know
really
it's not a
desperate
phys- I know it's not a
situation. It's a
physical
really-
rape. I know it's not a physical
I
rape.
know, it's
I know
like-
it's just mental. But it's true to her. And the way Wife on the Tube wakes up after a dream, some people, they wake up from a dream and they feel like it was real. Like, people cry after a dream. Some people are very scared after a dream. It's just a dream, and yet it feels so real. This is a physical, that's like a mental violation. And he says, if you can endure more of these attacks, I'm like, excuse me. No. Because she asked to be relieved of duty, and he's like, no, first of all, you ain't relieved of duty. And you're going to live through this again, thank you.
I didn't even know.
I think I
never
would have
even
quit my
noticed that.
job. I think I
But,
would
like-
have said, no.
Okay, but I will
dropped my
say
badge.
this. Without being ordered to do it, if I were Counselor Troy, I would still have done it because it's a desperate situation. Like, she
Okay.
was the only kind of hope to finding where the scimitar was. They had this, like,
because they had the massive, like, the special cloak.
Yeah, exactly. So I do think it's a harsh situation,
Reality,
and
right?
it kind of parallels this. Like, Picard is not afraid to make these like really tough decisions. Like,
So Picard is a dick sometimes.
I mean, but it's his job.
But I mean, in this episode specifically, he's kind of using the excuse of the Prime Directive to stand back. He's like, oh, well, this is the Prime Directive. And I'm like, he's not going to make an exception today, but he's like, oh, this is the Prime Directive, let's just do this way. And this is the rule, and no one can blame me for it because I followed the rules and regulations. But in Nemesis, there's nothing to defend him. He's ordering Troy to get raped.
It's really we'll have to talk about this more when we get to Nemesis. But going back to this episode, do you think that because he's
was
clearly
troubled.
annoyed by Nikolai Rozhenko, like he doesn't really like him, do you think he would have had the same reaction if he had liked Nikolai? Would he have maybe been more collaborative? There is the one scene where Nikolai comes to him and he's like, look, this is the situation, this is what I've done, and Picard's like, well, we have no choice, let's give it a try.
You see, that's the thing. He ends on the kind of "you've given me no choice" note. But as Nikolai explains the situation to him, or he explains kind of the plan that he's established, Picard does look pretty impressed. I mean, he has this
Right.
moment where he's like, "Okay, this isn't that bad." He thinks to himself, "Is he jealous because he didn't think of it?"
No. Come on.
No, but there is a moment
Picard-
where you kind of
Picard
see in his
embodies-
eyes that.
There's these I'll send them to you, but I don't like to mix personal life with Starfleet Boy life too much, but I will go there for this one occasion and give a huge kudos to the CEO of the corporation that I work for. That person created these kind of principles called the entrepreneurship principles, like to have a successful to be successful as an entrepreneur. Like, these are some principles that really great entrepreneurs embody, and I think Picard embodies one in particular, which is collaborate without ego. Not to say that he doesn't have an ego about things certain times, but like he's very collaborative, and he tends to put his ego aside. And if a good idea comes from anywhere, he's usually very open to doing it. And oftentimes, and I noticed this about TNG, is like when he doesn't know what to do, he'll like just flat out say like,
give me ideas, right?
Give me ideas, people. Like, I don't really know what to do in this situation. I think
that's
it's
good.
really admirable. Yeah,
even though he's the one that makes the final decision, that I think as a leader, as a captain, you have to be that way. It's easier said than done, because I mean, it must be very complicated, especially when you're in a position. For example, like for example, you're like the lead scientist on some sort of science project, and someone gives you an idea that's not even part of your science team. Someone's like I don't know, like the security guy or the engineer says something. Putting your ego aside and accepting that idea might actually be very difficult, because you're like, you're not even in my field. You know, you don't even have this expertise, and you're coming in with this concept or this idea.
Right,
but,
like Stamets to Burnham in season 1. He's like, when he's like, you're a mutineer and you're a lurker, and he's like made all these judgments, and he doesn't like, and then he's surprised that she actually finds the discrepancy in the code, and then that's
he didn't know
like,
that Michael Burnham can solve any problem.
None of us did. Only Michael Burnham knew that.
I actually love TNG a lot. Like, I know that I often bash on the show for many things, but I love TNG a lot, and the whole thing where Data and Crusher are talking about this, you know, they're talking about how they should kind of like what planet they should find and what one they should choose and what have you. And then I love the way that you follow them. They decide on the planet, and so they call the bridge, and then all of a sudden, boom, you pop onto the bridge with Riker and Picard, and they're like, okay, so they check out the planet on their little console. And then Riker's telling Picard, oh, it's only this far away, what have you. And then all of a sudden you're following Picard that's giving the orders to the helm. And I love that kind of dynamic. I love how you see how the ship like functions. And
yeah, I love that too. Let's talk about the character the Chronicler character for a second. I actually felt a lot of like empathy for his character watching it this time around, like and I don't think I ever regarded I haven't seen this episode many times. It's not one that I go to over and over again, but when it's been on in the past, I've watched it on television or whatever, and of course I saw it when it first aired, and I thought like to myself, like I tried really hard to like put myself in the shoes of someone who can't go on just after realizing that the earth is not flat or like or something like that, like or whatever, and I can't, like I just feel like I have such a strong sense of like, oh, let's try, let's go on this journey. Like, so going to his character, I guess the question I had out of this was to ask you was, what would you have done? Would you have gone back to your people, or would you have stayed on the Enterprise and gone on to explore? Well, he would have been introduced to the Federation. Which choice would you have made?
I really don't know. The thing is, in our time period, if I were to be all of a sudden like on a starship or something, I would very much make the request to the Captain Picard that I'm interacting with that I can bring my wife and my child with me.
But he was single, it seemed like he was young and like,
I would very much like to go into space and discover. But that's because we kind of, although we're not there yet, we understand all of these things, right? But these guys are this is the Middle Ages, isn't it, essentially?
But he seems to understand, like they are kind of like, I would agree that they're like, and they have technology of some kind. Those lanterns did they seem electric to you? Maybe there's some sort of bioluminescence type thing. They didn't have like, I don't think they had electricity. I take that back, because the Chronicle was definitely handwritten, but the lanterns were interesting. I forgot what, but they're probably some kind of bioluminescence. But like
it could be anything that they could have a certain plant or whatever on their planet, which we don't
right,
have.
which glows. Yeah, which
Exactly.
we don't have. And it's not to say like there's certainly like an ancient battery that was discovered in like the Babylon blah, 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 blah. I think it's called the Babylon battery or something like that. It's like I forget what it's called, but there might have been some manipulation of electricity in times periods that we didn't think so. But he seems to like understand. I just don't get how he could how keeping it a secret would be a big deal. It was interesting that they created this conundrum though, because normally they just erase their memory, right, and they send him back. But like Dr. Crusher said, that their physiology was such that they couldn't actually do that to them. The other thought I had so my thing is, I would definitely stay.
I feel like they had other ways of doing it. I feel like they had more unethical ways of doing it. They couldn't erase his memory in a medical way, but they could have maybe given him drugs, or made him drunk, or impaired his judgment in such a way that, or like they could have made him very sick, very ill. Not so much that he would die, but so that he would, be in like a very strong heat fever or something, and that he would wake up 3 weeks later from like a heat dream or whatever, and it was like, I've lived through all this stuff, but he himself would believe that it was all part of this fantastical dream. And then when he would go looking for the holodeck kind of things, but he would be on the planet now, and so there would be nowhere to find, and it would eventually pass. He would eventually move on and be like, I was sick throughout the trip. But that's maybe very moral. That's morally grey, and to start.
Well, so is erasing memory, period. But yeah, I agree. Like, I agree that's
fair enough.
It's like
yeah.
I mean, like it's all in that same realm. Worf was fantastic as
this.
What's that?
Sorry, I just wanted to end on this. It's difficult to say this because they did kill the character on the show, and his death. I took his death to heart. I mean, honestly, I was very sad.
Yeah, I like the character a lot. I loved that because he was he was the historian of these people
as well.
Like
It's very difficult to say this in that sense, but I do feel like sometimes Star Trek goes the easy route, and I think that they asked the question. They were like, "Oh, what would happen if someone actually found out about this and we can't send him back?" But then Star Trek refuses to answer the question because it's too complicated, and they don't want to take a stance. So they're like, "Well, he's going to kill himself," and then so problem solved. It wraps up in a nice little bow, and we don't have to deal with it anymore as the writers. Right. You know what I mean?
It could have been really interesting if he stayed on and then became a character on Deep Space Nine. That would have been amazing. Like
just follows Worf around all the time,
or starts out, I don't know, starts out something like that. It'd have been interesting. You said you wanted to end on that, but I just had a couple more things.
No, I wanted to finish that.
Oh, gotcha. That segment. Okay, gotcha. The other thing is how easy it is to surgically alter yourself. I mean, like they supposedly took Worf's whole entire
cranial.
Off. So like, what are they Are they using like Ash Tyler technology? Like, what are they doing? Like, what is it? It's like seems so easy to just like change and then change back. Like, it's kind of an interesting thing. Or do you think he
so
still
many
had...
times in Star Trek? There's friggin'
Riker.
What's her name? Kestra? That girl from Voyager. That she's a Bajoran in the beginning, but you find out Kestra, I think it is.
That she's actually a Cardassian. Yeah, sorry guys.
The Cardassian have a lot of lumps,
extra stuff. Yeah, like including this like thing that goes down your neck here,
the whole
like
thing
that
here,
thing.
Which seems very important. It seems like
like there's veins.
These are
and
tubes
stuff
for breathing or whatever it is, and they're like, nah, we'll just make it look like a. I don't know. Did they use a sort of cloaking?
I don't know. I mean, it's really interesting. Like, what? I mean, she has this huge contraption on Worf's head when she's analyzing him to do the surgery, Dr. Crusher. There was a lot of cool
Are
medical...
they actually pushing things inside? I don't know. It makes no sense.
And like, let's say they remove Worf's ridges. Do they store them in like a tank until he's done with the mission? Put it back on?
Do they push them in?
I
and then they come out again. I don't know.
It's a miracle. It seems like magic to us because
it makes so
advanced.
Sense.
It makes no sense because it's so advanced. But like, I'd love to know, because whatever happened to Ash was like horrifying. Like he's like traumatized from it. So it's a whole different. Klingons have a whole different way of doing it. But Worf's like, no big deal. I'll just consider
technically speaking.
Yeah, it's true.
We're
100 years later.
Ago,
it's
right?
true. Yeah, 200 years ago.
Or
is it 200 years? Yeah,
100 years ago.
It's like 100 and some. Well, okay, 10 years from the start of the original
Discovery
series.
Discovery is 2256, right? And Picard that we're following here, this is 22 maybe 66. So it's like 110 years ago.
110 years, okay. Well,
something like that.
There we go. If you take good care of your Discovery era ships, they'll last all the way into the 25th century. Wow. Let's not go there. What was the last note here that I had was oh yeah, so this is Alexander Singer's last episode that he directs of TNG. He does 6 episodes of DS9 and like 10 episodes of Voyager, so he's a Star Trek director. And an interesting note that I saw about him is that he was friends with Stanley Kubrick, who is renowned as a great director and one of my favorite directors as well. So that was a cool little fun fact. Fun fact as opposed to a distressing fact. And then our boy Naren Shankar is the story lead on this one. So he didn't write the story, but a script teleplay. He wrote the teleplay.
This is executive producer of The Expanse. Is that who you're talking about?
Yes. Yes, correct.
I have a completely unrelated question. Did you notice that when they come out of the holodeck, when Voron, the Scrollman, comes out of the holodeck, he's kind of followed by all of these people that are very concerned for him. It's coming from a good place, but he's very quickly in 10 forward. Is it not too close to 10 forward, that holodeck?
No, you know what's interesting is earlier in the episode they do say something about Deck 10, like that when Worf discovers what's going on, like when they're like I think there's a holodeck right near 10 forward.
Okay, so they well, it makes sense. It's recreational, both of them, I suppose.
Right.
So they do set it up early.
It'd be interesting.
Say that it's on Deck 10.
Yeah. Yeah, and what if all the holodecks are on Deck 10? Because they call it the hollow deck. Like, it seems like a huge area. You know what I mean? Like, they don't just call it
empty deck full of just empty rooms.
Oh, well, they're not quite empty, but yeah, filled with holodecks. Like, what if the hollow deck is Deck 10? It might be interesting. I don't know. But this one definitely is on Deck 10, and it's near 10 forward. I thought that was an interesting scene, too. I thought it was, like, so well performed that I actually kind of felt the anxiety of, like, what Voron was going through.
Oh, in that scene in particular, you can see that the actor did a very good job. He's terrified, that character.
He's just so terrified, yeah. And then Crusher and
Troy and Riker.
Sorry, Troy and Riker
get your
diffuse
facts
the situation.
Together. Get your facts straight.
That's what I meant. I don't know why I said Crusher. I just always have Dr. Crusher on my mind. She's you know, she's like the goddess of Starfleet boy. You know. We're gonna have a celebration of Crusher for Sub Rosa. I can't wait.
Gates McFadden and Sir Patrick Stewart shared a kiss
at the premiere. It was so wonderful
in UK, and now people are going nuts. Like, oh my goodness, is she gonna be on the show? Are we going to have a conclusion to this story?
She tweeted,
I feel like a conclusion to this story is needed. I don't necessarily want them to be together, and I don't necessarily think that's the logical way to go. But I think that, like, kind of, it would be nice to have a wrap up on this story arc. Nemesis gave us a wrap up on the Troy Riker story arc. It's kind of awkward seeing Worf sitting there at the table, but whatever. He had another wife in the meantime that died.
It's so tragic.
I mean, shit happens, right?
You're not making it sound any better. But I was kind of shocked. I don't know. You can't really trust what anyone says nowadays because the name of the game is to throw the audience off about things. But Gates McFadden suggested in a tweet that there is no Dr. Crusher in season 1, and she's maybe season 2.
This. Everyone also said back in the day that none of them had been contacted for Star Trek Picard. And none of them were going to be in Star Trek Picard. None of them had any idea what was going on in Star Trek Picard. But it would seem like every goddamn person is back.
Which is what I wanted. That's what I've always dreamt about. This is this is totally my dream coming true.
It's all lies, isn't it?
Did I mention that I was in a complete state of bliss like I've never experienced in my whole life watching the clip that they gave us? That I
yes,
just
you did. Actually, you did. Last week.
Yeah, it's just complete. I don't know what it's going to be like in just 3 short days. Oh, less. Yeah, just two more days, really, essentially.
Because I had explained, I remember I followed that up by saying that when I put it on the TV, I had started accepting the episode. This is the episode, I'm watching it now. But then it ends abruptly, and you're like,
I started accepting it. It was I already
this is it. The scene, it's like a minute long, and by 30 seconds on it, you're like, all right, let me just watch some Star Trek Picard. But then no.
It's so true.
Oh my goodness. I feel like I'm going to watch the episodes before I take my nap after I get home from work. Take my nap, and then watch it again. And then I'll watch it again a third time with my wife when she's home that night. And then I'll be rewatching it for all the Easter eggs for the videos.
I guess... I
can barely sit through an episode of Discovery. I have to watch it multiple times to get down the Easter eggs, right?
Wow. In your most recent video for Children of Mars, there were a lot of cool things that I learned, which made me feel even more excited about it than I already was. You were saying the typeface was and I totally didn't realize why it felt so familiar. It's because it's the TNG typeface. You pointed that out,
it's
which
the one
is
that
really
they
great.
use for the actors' names and the characters and.
Yeah, the credits, and it's the official TNG, typeface. I don't know what actually that typeface is. I'd love to find out. But I also like that you calmed down considerably, and thank you so much for that shout out that you did. And I love that you flashed a frame from our discussion.
You're now making me realize I don't know if I actually put the link in the description. I meant to.
Oh, no worries. You could totally do that.
Maybe didn't.
All right.
I absolutely did not.
It's okay.
I'll go put the link in the description.
Do it when you can. One of the things when this segment of my journey ends, when we finish these TNG discussions, I intend to go back and actually fill out a lot of the descriptions with links and things that I never did. I was very bad in the beginning. I didn't understand. It was my first thing. Yeah. So
shocking.
shocking. And do a lot more with that. Speaking of giving credits, everyone go check out Trek on the Tube.
That's very kind.
On YouTube, and check out that Children of Mars video. Very well done. Very fair. I may not agree with you, but I cannot disagree that you are very fair. At the end of the day, you try really hard to show the most fair perspective, and I appreciate that as one of your audience members.
It's normal that you don't always agree, because it does come down to opinion. At the end of the day, even if I try to make my reviews fair, it is fair in regards to my opinion, right? Or to my sentiment.
But you weigh it. But what I like is that you do weigh it against, maybe if you have an unpopular opinion, you do weigh it against a popular opinion, and you're one of the first to admit that maybe you're in the minority, or I don't know if you say you're wrong, but you definitely say that you definitely seem to have a good handle on whether or not your opinion is popular or not.
You know, there are certain things where, like, there are like the Discovery is like the aesthetics of the Discovery show. I feel like people that accept it, I feel like they're wrong, right? As simple as that. I there's no other way to put it. I feel like you're wrong. You should not just blindly accept those aesthetics because it doesn't suit the show. But then there are other things like the Enterprise finale. People that don't like it, at the end of the day, I can't really even say you're wrong, because if you don't like it, then that's the feeling that it has, and like that's the feeling that you have, and that the feeling that the episode provides. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. You can't be wrong about how you feel, right? You feel the way you feel. True.
I think that the thing about the Discovery aesthetics is that, like, it just feels like a lot of people that talk about the Discovery aesthetics, they're like trying to say the way that it feels to me, and I'm not saying that this is you, but it feels like you're saying, well, the whole show is terrible just because they got this stuff wrong. And I think that, like, it is wrong, but it's not a deal breaker. It makes me feel like I'm not saying you do this, but a lot of people that talk about the Discovery aesthetics, and don't get me wrong, I was definitely appalled by the aesthetics of Discovery. Like, I'm not trying to say that I'm not saying that they're correct, but I just don't think it makes or breaks the show. At the end of the day, there's a lot of great stuff about Discovery, and I just choose to ignore the aesthetics being wrong. And I know that that's not exactly the best way to approach things, but but it helps me to just keep going, because otherwise it's like, well, then why am I even putting any energy into this if I already think that this major component is wrong? And so maybe that's just me. I really wish they'd gotten it right. I just don't care. That it's not the biggest deal to me at the end of the day. Like, I'm not going to, like, stop watching Discovery just because, the Enterprise pylons are in the wrong direction, and that, like, there's holograms when there shouldn't be, perhaps, or things like that. So it all comes down to that.
The thing is like, we don't have that many different aesthetics to deal with, in a sense, for the moment. I mean, if you really want to look for it, you could say that there's, Kelvin Timeline aside, because that's its own thing, you could say that there's like the original series, and then there's the next the Berman era, and then you've got what you've got now, right? So it's not too much. But in the same way, like this episode, we look at Picard's kind of decision, and how it could, like, if every Star Trek captain started doing whatever the hell they wanted, it has these long-lasting repercussions. Think of it the same way for, like, Star Trek and its aesthetics. If every 10 years there's a new person in charge that does a whole bunch of new shows set in these different time frames, but always change the aesthetics, and always has a new Enterprise, and always has a new thing, at the end of the day, the franchise, 100 years, like another 50 years from now, it will be a complete goddamn mess. And, like, the credibility of the universe will take a toll, because the technology and the coherence of it all will no longer exist. And so that's kind of the way I look at it. I'm like, you have to really think about these decisions that you're making, because they're long lasting. This isn't a thing that we're going to reboot in 10 years. This isn't just any other sci-fi
But
film.
At the same time, if from an official capacity, and correct me if I'm wrong, if CBS or some authority said, hey, this is a reimagining, we intended the effects to be different, we intended the look to be different because we're reimagining Star Trek, you'd be like, oh, okay, I get it. And then you'd move on with your happy self, right?
Well, yes and no. A reimagining to me doesn't mean anything. I don't like that. What does a reimagining mean? A reimagining is it's a sign of weakness, all right? Either you reboot your franchise and restart it, either you don't and you carry on, and you be respectful to it. You don't do a half-assed job, all right? This ain't.
I would argue one of the best
fucking First Class. One
of the best shows that was introduced as a reimagining, in my opinion, was Battlestar Galactica. It was actually like that's how it was presented. No, it was presented as a reimagining of Battlestar Galactica.
But it means reboot. It's not a visual reimagining or a soft reboot. It's a new show. It's not in continuity with the other ones. It's a remake, essentially.
Right.
Battlestar Galactica. And if they had done that for Star Trek, I would have been
Discovery.
I would have been very disappointed. Yeah, for Discovery, I would have been very disappointed to see Star Trek: The Entity kind of restart, because I feel like it doesn't need to, especially in this day and age. But then, I none of my complaints. I would have had no complaints, because essentially I would have said, well, I don't like this new Star Trek that they're doing, but I still have 50 years of this old one that I can watch, and that will remain.
So you're saying you would have still not liked it?
Discovery?
Yeah.
No, because I think I bitch about the visuals and the aesthetics all the time, but I think the stories are shit too. I think
So yeah, you would have just
it's
across
not
the
a
board.
good show. I watch a lot of TV, and let me tell you that Discovery is subpar at best. It's mediocre in comparison to all of the stuff that I watch. There's genius TV out there that I get very, very excited about, and that I cannot watch. Like when my eyes are on that screen, I can't stop watching. Discovery is one of those shows that I want to go and do the dishes, or friggin' hang the laundry while I'm watching it, because it annoys me. But I can't do that because I got a channel, I got to watch it. Discovery is not a show that I enjoy.
I really started getting into it
the characters are not well developed. The stories are not well written. Visually, there's the visual problems. It's not easy for people that like Star Trek to watch it, and it's not easy for people that don't know anything about Star Trek to watch it either. So they found the worst of both worlds.
I really like season 2. I think that it changed my mind about Discovery. I feel like for season 1, I felt a lot like you did. I was actually ready to probably just dismiss the series and just like have these conversations, because it's part of the journey that I'm on. But I actually turned around in season 2. For me, I feel like season 2 did a lot to enhance the show. Well, let's see what happens in season 3. At the very least, I know our discussions will be interesting.
Oh, that's for sure. My mother is a lifelong Star Trek fan, all right? And she doesn't have online discussions with people. She doesn't know what the fandom is. She's not aware of the social media or anything like that. She doesn't know any of the hate. She doesn't know. But every time she watches an episode of Discovery, she's like, I don't like it. She says it doesn't. She's, in her words, she says it doesn't feel like Star Trek. She says she doesn't like the story. She doesn't like the characters. She doesn't like what they're doing. She doesn't understand half of what's going on anyway. She doesn't enjoy Star Trek, all right? Also, my mother is a feminist, all right? True in heart. She wants women to rule the world. She's always buying me magazines of like the top 50, like the most influential 50 women that have lived and etc. She hates every single woman on that show. She hates them all. She hates Tilly. She hates Burnham. She hates Georgiou. She doesn't like any of the. She hates L'Rell. She doesn't like any of the women on that show. I mean that's her opinion. Wow. And I'm every time she talks about, I'm staggered. I'm like, well, I mean,
you should get your mom on an episode of Trek on the Tuber Starfleet. I guess I have to learn. Does she speak English?
She has these complaints that she speaks English. She has these complaints that I never would have thought of. Like, she pointed out to me that she doesn't like Number One, and the portrayal of Number One by Rebecca Romijn. And she says it starts with the hair. Her hair is loose, and I'm like, what does that got to do with anything? She says, you're in the military, your hair's not loose. She says you can have long hair, but your hair needs to be back. It needs to be held back, and it can't be just loose. It's very unprofessional to have your hair that way. And then when you take I took the time to go and watch the original series, Next Generation, Enterprise Deep Space Nine. Every woman in Starfleet, they have their hair back. So the people that made the shows before understood that. They understood that.
Wait,
importance.
in the Cage, Majel Barrett wears her hair back? I thought it was loose.
That's the exception. The Cage.
Oh well, then
right?
But then wouldn't it be? But then is it really like the character's fault if they're being true to like this character?
So this is the example that she
also
used. But all of the characters.
Why is Yeoman Rand allowed to have like a gigantic beehive that's like this tall?
No, but this is something we're not talking about. Yeah. We're not talking about the disgusting style of hair that she has. We're talking about whether it's practical or not. My mother says you're not supposed to have your hair in your face, right? And she says all of the women of Discovery always have their hair in their face, whereas in any of the other shows they don't. They have their hair held back. Even Hoshi in Enterprise has her hair held back. And this is something that I never would have noticed, and I didn't even talk about in my
Dr.
videos.
Crusher definitely doesn't have her hair held back, especially in the. And by the way, I like to mention this is my favorite of her wigs. I think it's like the best hair, but she doesn't have her hair held back. Troy does often tie her hair. I will say that. Like I did. You're right about that, but Crusher definitely doesn't. And you don't want like strands of hair falling into a wound. Like, you know,
my
like
mother talks about these things like on a very, I don't know, she's like, she says that professionally speaking you have to be this way, and she says I don't like it when they do that or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I wouldn't have noticed that particular detail, but she's very unhappy with Discovery. And I mean,
there's a scene in Star Trek 2 that actually points that out. Like it's the scene in the turbo lift with Kirk and Savick where she has her hair down. And he's like, he makes some sort of comment like, interesting hairstyle because she has it tied up in a bun before. And she goes, it's regulation. So she does establish that even though it's not popular, it is regulation. So I just want to throw that out there, that going back to Star Trek 2, Savik's hair being let loose is regulation according to Starfleet. Starfleet's not a military exactly like the traditional military. I think they're a lot laxer or looser in some senses than the traditional military that we know.
Oh, that's for sure. But then I mean, you have to be because you've got so many different species too in your midst. So like it has to be.
What if it's true. What if your thing is to have mohawks? Like that could be a thing. Like it's an interesting type of thing. I think they keep going back and forth with these things because it again. Naturally it's when it suits the plot, right? Because there are times where like even Riker, I forget, makes Ensign Ro take her Bajoran earring off, saying it's not regulation, but
Worf.
But Worf has like jewelry and like you know, like I don't know, it's like, you know, so you know, Worf has like Klingon stuff, you know, that he's allowed to wear. Like why is that okay and not the other? So yeah, there's a lot of incongruities.
But that's resolved by the end of the episode because he lets her wear the earring, right?
Yeah, I do find it interesting that your mom is a feminist though, and that she's she finds all the female characters on Discovery to be repulsive.
She's absolutely right.
Really,
they're all none of them. That's
really interesting. I disagree with your mom, but I don't want to disagree with her too much because I hope to meet her one day.
I mean, I have a daughter. I'm going to have her watch Star Trek Voyager because I find that every woman on that show, they're all amazing. It's the woman is the show is run by women. Star Trek Voyager, as is the ship, as are the plots, and I think that the women on that show are fantastic, both so the actors and the characters. And you know, I'll show that to my daughter. Discovery, I won't, just because I don't want to subject my daughter to TV anyway. So.
You don't think it's a problem that 7 of 9 is wearing a form-fitting jumpsuit just to show off her feminine physique for the male fans? Like that was pretty much the reason they made that decision on the production side, was to the same thing with T'Pol, to make her sexy.
Okay, and so Enterprise is peculiar because I have many beefs with Enterprise, many quarrels with Enterprise. Being in the year 2000s, it does too much of that. It shows Hoshi naked. I don't like that. It shows T'Pol naked. I don't like that.
But to be fair, it does show Trip and...
I don't find that fair. Well, it is fair in that sense. I was going to continue with that. They always constantly show Trip naked, and I don't like that. They constantly show Archer naked, and I don't like that. There's way too much. There's way too much crotch bulge in that show. There's way too many,
oh my god, new hashtag crotch bulge.
There's way too many tits in that show. And like there's this thing where they show in Voyager they show Jerry Ryan kind of naked when they're doing that painting thing where what's his name, the Doctor is painting her. And it was you can sense that they're using the painting things as an excuse to get Jerry Ryan naked, but it was done tastefully in a sense. In Enterprise, it's the year 2000. We're doing slow motion explosions and people naked. That's what we're doing. That's our show. We're making it cool, and I don't like it.
So to that degree, I think that
But
those
then,
shows.
you think, oh, we're showing form-fitting Jerry Ryan. Is that offensive? But then,
Not that it's offensive.
We're showing
I just don't think
Laurel tits, like full-blown.
Right. I'm just saying that, like,
I mean,
there's the thing is that, like, I think that Star Trek Discovery is the most modern portrayal of feminism.
Modern is not good, though. Modern makes it appeal maybe to modern audiences, but modern doesn't make it better. It's the decisions of today are not necessarily better than the decisions of yesterday.
Right, because tomorrow they might be a different norm. It's true. But what is the most? I think if you look at
the quality of decisions over time, you'll see that
I would say that up until,
but there were up and downs.
I would say that up until Discovery, though, Star Trek was rather exploitative of women in particular, and I think Star Trek Discovery kind of like does the best job so far of trying not to exploit women, the sexuality of women. I think it's more. I think actually there's like a lack of sexuality in Star Trek Discovery, which is kind of a different story.
Well, there's also a thing. I mean, I don't know. There are decisions that are strange. Also.
We're getting way
off topic.
Sorry. Yeah, we're getting way off topic. We should reel it in. It's true. It doesn't matter for now, but we will have this discussion again. I like that.
To talk about my mother and how she reacts to Star Trek Discovery, and this is.
I love it.
And she's not influenced by me in any way. I mean, if anyone's influenced by another, it would be, as her son,
you.
I would be influenced by the parent more than she is by me. Like, when I say something, when I like a short tricks and I send her my review, because I have to send all my videos to my mother so that she watches them. When I send them and she disagrees with me, I receive a very heated email. Right, telling me that she strongly disagrees with everything I said and that I'm quite wrong.
That's awesome.
So
can we get a mother on the tube, like a special like reaction video?
It's not
where,
like
she actually records her reaction and sends it to you, and then it's like the addendum. Like you have like you can call it like this is what my mom thought of my video. No one in the comments can compare to what my mom thought of this.
No, seriously, if you think that, if you go and watch my Discovery reviews and you think I'm being very hard on the show, you got no idea what kind of emails she sends me.
Oh wow, fantastic! I would love to be privy to some of that. Shall we rate this episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation?
Yes, this was a good episode.
Yes, I agree.
In my opinion,
I give this episode a 7. I give it that because I loved meeting Worf's brother. I thought he was a cool character. I liked a lot the concept of like this village that was going to be wiped out and that they're transported to a new home, and just the parallels to early humans with the chronicler, and like we didn't even talk about it, but Worf takes the chronicles like as a souvenir. It's like don't they need like that, like the last 17 generations or whatever it is.
First of all, yes, he shouldn't be taking the chronicles because they need it. Also, dude on Voron that died on the ship had chronicles in his hand, which he could have taken those ones. He didn't have to steal another bunch from.
Wait, weren't those the Chronicles? Those, I feel like those were the Chronicles. It's the same those Chronicles. Were the ones like,
I don't know, but he had 6 different.
It's unclear.
7 different sets, right?
Right, he had a lot. There was like 17 generations or something. Basically, is what
he had lost.
To.
He said he only saved 6 or 7 of the 17 generations.
Oh, gotcha. But then he went back to get. Oh, I get it. So he left his packets there, and then he went and he found the other packets that he had dropped,
that he had lost, and he died.
And that's what he was holding on to. And so now Worf has the whole.
But Worf took the other packet or another packet from. So there's basically no history left anyway. History will begin with essentially an imposter writing them. On a new planet.
Well, Nikolai's going to be the chronicler, which is interesting too. So that's kind of a neat job for him. But anyways, I love the Borellans. Things like this are not going to happen in Picard, but it would be neat to revisit them.
I would love to revisit that planet and see Nikolai. I agree.
And Nikolai, yeah, exactly. But this is like on the extreme fringes of what might happen on Picard. Like it's safe
To say that they won't
bet
do that.
that they're not gonna do that. Like
They
even
don't
for
bring back
Starfleet,
Beverly Crusher, but we see Nikolai.
even for me, remember my idea for the first episode of Picard was just everyone, like every single. Every single person. Like, it would be the
statue
longest.
of Nog and a statue of Odo because they can't be here.
Because right,
Like
they're just everyone in the first 5 minutes of Picard. So it's very bad. So Starfleet Boy would not be a great showrunner because I would just put everyone in the first 5 minutes of Star Trek. Picard. The audience would be like, "What the f is this?"
It's like received your first script. It's like everyone is on screen.
I love the performances. We didn't talk about Penny Johnson's performance. I don't think that her performance did justice in this to what she is capable
They ask
of.
nothing of her.
Right, but this is like her first Star Trek appearance, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is the first time she ever appears on Star Trek.
But I mean, her character has nothing to do. She's just running around, basically. She's
very like, yeah, she's very supportive of Nikolai, which is nice, and she tries to heal their rift. Like she comes to Worf and pleads with him.
Yeah,
so there are things that she does do, I think. But again, it's not like the best showcase of her character. I think she gets a lot better when she's Cassidy Yates, later Cassidy
I think actually for all the shit that I give the Orville, I think that the Orville is doing a very good job with her as an actor and her character.
Yeah, I agree. She's great on the Orville. I just love her. She's a fantastic actor, and she's done a couple of interviews that are really interesting, and she really champions human rights, and like especially in America with the situation with African Americans, and she just likes to really put things into perspective, and I like her a lot. She's a great performer. So yeah, a solid 7 for this episode from Starfleet Boy. I hand it off to you.
That's very interesting.
Why? What's so interesting about it?
I give it an 8.5.
I can't believe I came in lower than you. You want to know why I went down to 7 though? Like why it couldn't have been an 8.5 for me? Well, it would have been higher, I think, if I just found the whole scene like I really did. We didn't talk about it a lot, but I really just thought it was off character for Picard to display the death of this planet on screen, and like just his kind of
offended by that.
I was like really like
it is a shocking decision when you think about it. It is a
little shocking decision. He's just like, he's like, his speech is kind of neat, but it's not exactly a good. I just really felt like he was wrong.
He doesn't
not necessarily about upholding the Prime Directive, but just like I couldn't relate at all to wanting to watch
his bridge crew. Well, his main bridge crew, like Riker, Data, these people are kind of used to these kind of things, but there's always the lucky ensign or the lucky someone that's on the bridge at that moment, right? And they're just doing their job at the engineering post, or they're doing their job at the helm or whatever. And these people, he's not taking into consideration that these people are also watching this planet die in front of them. And this dude,
it's just very strange. It just seemed a little psychotic.
He's been working for 6 months on the Enterprise, right? This is his first occasion to be on the bridge. This is like a big deal. It's amazing. We shall watch these people die and observe the Prime Directives. Like, oh my goodness.
It just didn't feel like they were honoring the. I guess that's what he was trying to do, is like to honor the
passing, right? Of
passing, right? But I just
but
didn't
this ain't
feel
no Viking funeral.
It's like that. Yeah, it was just like so Paul Sorvino's character in that scene is me 100. He's like I'm like 100% like, if you'll excuse me.
Is it even
what's
worse?
that?
How would you feel if the ship turned around and left? Is it even worse, the ship leaving as the planet dwindles to its death and you're just leaving? Is it even worse?
I think what would have made me happy is what I normally expect from Picard. I'm not saying Picard has to be consistent every time, but my impression is that he would have made some kind of ship-wide announcement of like, today's a sad day, like this is the part of our jobs that we don't really talk about often or that we, like acknowledge.
Oh, okay.
But, upholding the Prime Directive is so essential because, and what you said would have been a really great thing. Like if we
Try to
all
put it
had
into perspective.
of the bigger perspective of like if every ship's captain could make an exception at any time they wanted to the Prime Directive, imagine how that would shape our galaxy, how it would shape, their lives. So I think that like that would have been more interesting than, and then just showing faces, like showing like the reactions of different ensigns and botanists and whatever other kind of people are serving on the Enterprise.
That would have made the scene much more emotional too.
I think so. And Paul Sorvino could have still been like,
mad,
but at least, it's just making him see it. I think that's what it was too. It's like the fact that he knew that he's on the bridge.
In retrospect, you also learn, like now you also know that he had a pregnant wife essentially on the planet. This is even worse.
It's just like, yeah, it was a little much. I thought that was just like, I just thought it was.
I would have made much more of a scene, knowing that my pregnant wife was on there. I mean, he doesn't make so much of a scene because he knows what he's doing. He's got that plan.
Right.
He's got the plan. He's like, I got no time to start screaming and yelling at Picard. I got to do my plan, right?
Right, exactly. But that's why
he waits really the last minute to do it. he risks.
It shorts out the whole system too. Like,
I think
the panel.
Had he been obligated, he would have probably left everyone on the planet except his wife, and just beamed his wife onto the bridge. Like, just I'm saving her.
That would have been a weird, different take on this whole episode, wouldn't it? And if
like
she
everyone else dies,
handle,
but he saves
like
her
imagine,
nonetheless. Like,
right? But and then she can't handle it. Like she's just like can't.
Oh, Star Trek they would have never killed a pregnant woman.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like
it that way.
But like, I'm just saying that would have been a totally different episode. All right, your rating is 8.5. Do you have any statement you want to make about your rating, or you like? Yeah, like I did. I made a whole statement. You don't have to make
the whole statement. I think it's a good episode. I think that in the same way the Pike decision that we have in season 2 of Discovery created a lot of debate and a lot of talk online, like in regards to the Prime Directive and to Saru, his species, and the Baul. I think that even though we might not all agree or might not all disagree, I think that's the point of it. Sometimes the Prime Directive is
have the
funky.
discussion.
It's open to discussion. The Prime Directive is kind of weird because it seems like a flat regulation, but then you can interpret it in many different ways. Because each situation is very unique, and I think that creating that discussion and creating that disagreement. Nick disliked that episode of Discovery because of that. And even though you like this episode, it took your rating down because of that decision. And I think that's part of what it is. That's part of the Prime Directive and how different captains handle it. So I think that's a good thing.
Right.
And other than that, I think all of everything in the episode was well executed and handled. I think that it was, even though we kind of randomly make up this brother of Worf, that's kind of how storytelling is. You just make up things. You believe their relationship, you believe their history. Everyone plays a nice little
100% sold by the performers too. So
all of the performances are very, very good.
Well, the end when Worf hugs Nikolai is just actually really a sweet, tender hug.
It is.
Like that was
It's
like
really
a really
nice.
good, nice, tender moment. So yeah, you're
And
right.
you can't help but think that Worf has he's got like a very strange extended family, doesn't he? Because he's got this Klingon family. Then he's also part of whatever Klingon house later on. He gets accepted into the House of Moog. And then he's also got these people that are pre-warp in his family, but he's also got the people on Earth. He's a very multicultural person.
I think Worf, in this, reviewing of TNG that I've done, and I've done a lot of them with you, so I think you can chime in on this. But for me, like, yeah, Worf is a much more interesting character than I ever thought he was when I was a kid. When I watched TNG the first time, when I was watching TNG the first time, I was obsessed with Data and Picard and maybe even Riker and Crusher. But like Worf, I never really took. I didn't like. I was still like very racist against. I was still very racist against Klingons because of the original series. Yeah, it's like I was still very awful.
Can't get over it.
Prejudice. Yeah, I was like, I'll never get over the death of Kirk's son.
I love how you have no beef with the Romulans. You're fine with them, even though they're the enemies, right? The Cardassians, you're fine, but not the Klingons.
Well, yeah, I had a lot of trouble with the Klingons, so it was like definitely something that I grew into. But now I love the Klingons, and I have to say that Worf is such an amazing character, and Michael Dorn gets a lot of credit for that. I would love to see him come back. All of them, of course. I would love to see them come back. Well, this was such a great time. We really had a pretty nice discussion about this episode.
Almost an hour ago, and then we just dragged it on.
But that's just like... But isn't that the point, is that like we actually discussed a lot about the Prime Directive and these theories and stuff like that. So it was really good that it sparked all that discussion. And as a matter of fact,
my mother.
Just because of that, I'm going to like do something that I don't do often, but I'm going to raise my rating to a 7.5 just to get a little closer to your rating, because I do think that it is extraordinary when you rate higher than me. It's not often that happens, so I do have to acknowledge that maybe you're right, number one.
Oh, it's the person that gives the higher rating that's right. Is that how it goes?
Well, I'm just saying you tend to have the more, like, what should we call it? The more like the less hype version. Like I get, like, if I get caught into the hype, my rating goes up, right? Doesn't it? Is that what you accuse me of? Isn't that what you say when I give a 10? You're just like,
when you give 10s to, and this isn't a Discovery thing. Discovery is the current show that we're watching, but when you give 10s to current shows, I feel like you're kind of in the hype. Picard will only get 10s with you. I know that. It's just going to be like, this is amazing. We saw Picard. Just the fact that Sir Patrick Stewart's on screen gives you a 10.
I tell you what, I am so excited to like talk about Star Trek without really having any complaints about visual presentation. There are going to be complaints because we see shuttles from like, the Discovery era, but they don't not make sense. Like shuttles can.
Yeah, I agree. There's a big difference. There's a fundamental difference.
There's a big difference.
Although they are a little odd to see, you can't make the argument that they have no place there. Right. Which is a big difference. It's bending.
Everything's going to be...
It's the canon bending, isn't it?
It's true. Everything's going to be strange and new, which is exactly what I want. So, strange.
I'm so excited.
And new.
I can't. I've been talking about Picard to everyone at work. None of them give a single shit.
Same here. I mean, like, this is my...
But I'm like...
I go out in this...
I've
like,
been doing a countdown. I've been saying only 7 days until Picard. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not going to watch it. I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, it's Picard coming back. It's like, who's Picard?
It's true. Our friend Gary's been sending us all these, like, interesting Picard name, like, parallels from real life, which is really funny. Like, so I've been enjoying that. No, I wear this is my uniform now, and lots of people will either come up and say how excited they are as well. It's a great conversation starter in public. Ironically, a lot of people are like, do you work on that show? I'm like, I wish I worked. I wish that I worked on that show. That would be an amazing thing to be a part of. But then there's a lot of people that come up and say, what is that? And I get so excited about those people because I get to go, it's Star Trek.
I love explaining it.
I love explaining it as well. So anyways, thank you so much again, Sean, for joining me for this exciting episode. Audience, please let us know what you thought of this episode and our discussion in the comments below. Like if you liked it, dislike if you disliked it, and then subscribe if you want to see.
Congratulations to you for holding these almost 2 hours with us. If you're still watching.
Yeah, if you made it this far, pretty extraordinary. And then I just want to give a shout out. I rarely give shout outs to new subscribers, which I should do more often because I'm so excited every time I do get a subscriber. But I just want to give a shout out to Yolanda Marrero, who just subscribed. So thank you for subscribing. And then what's that?
You're the best.
You're the best. And then of course
is the best.
Every new subscriber, all the subscribers,
the best.
Unlike the shows, we don't rate our subscribers. You're all 10 pluses in our books.
No, they're all unrateable.
Unrateable, yeah, exactly.
They're all so good that they're unrateable.
We really appreciate your subscription. Stay tuned for a lot more, and yeah, that's it. Live long and prosper, and we'll see you next time.
Nick.
What
Kit
about
Wolski,
Nick?
He's a bad subscriber.
Why?
He's only a 1 out of 10. I don't know. He'll never watch this conversation. So
you don't know. I don't know. Sometimes I'm surprised. I'm surprised sometimes, but I don't think he has the time anymore. But there was a time where he did watch.
He's too busy.
He's got
too much on his plate. I love him.
Speaking of Nick, we're very proud of. We're all very proud of Nick, and if you guys don't know who we're talking about The Real Ketwalski on YouTube. Check out Ketwalski for like pretty much. I don't know how he has the time, but I love it. He has up to the minute reactions to everything that's happening, and it's great. So go check that out. Sadly, I'm avoiding a lot of discussion because
me too. I'm not watching as many of you guys as I want at the moment because I'm trying to.
We're trying very hard.
I don't want. I just want to see the episodes as they come out.
Just discover. We want to discover. That's true.
Sit down with a cup of hot cocoa and watch my Star Trek. Watch my Picard.
That reminds me, I gotta go get hot cocoa. Although it'll be the morning, it's not a great morning time thing. I'll have a cup of coffee. There's a coffee in that nebula. All right, see ya.
All right, see ya.
Wait, let's stop this. And okay, stop recording. All right, now I can say see.